our Zoom platform. And hence, we are having only the key members in this group to facilitate with the logistics. And the others will be all the other students, that is G21 and S20, will be watching it through YouTube Live.
No problem.
Okay.
That sounds fine. So whose idea was to do these roundtable discussions? I have to tell you, in my batch, we were not this proactive. We did start a group Slack channel, but aside from our WhatsApp group, we didn't do anything else pre-MBA. Oh, the video as well.
So we have one of our batchmates, her name is Roshni. She pitched in the idea and we thought that it was good. And then we kind of conceptualized the whole thing. And we have multiple sessions. So the first 2 sessions were addressing student life on campus. The next 2 sessions are for immediate alumni. And then we're planning to go industry focused. So that before campus, before MBA, during MBA, and right after MBA, and career in general, we cover all the 4 stages.
Cool. Well, it's very type A of you all. But it's a great idea. I'm glad. It's good to take the initiative, and that's what the MBA is all about. So you're getting started early, which is a good sign.
Cool. I think to the other members in the group, we could all open videos till maybe 8:30, and once just before the session starts, okay, we could go offline. Yeah. Okay. Oscar's also here, I guess.
Yep. Welcome, Oscar. He's just connecting. Hello, Oscar. Welcome.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Fine. And you?
I'm good. I'm good.
That's great. Thank you for your time and your participation today.
No problem.
Great to have you here.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can help you a lot, but I know I can help you with don'ts. So my experience.
Yeah, for sure you will.
Yeah.
Thank you. For sure you will help us. We're now waiting for our 3rd panelist, and the session begins in 10 minutes. Yeah, it will be a YouTube live session, so you'll not be able to see all participants here in Zoom, but we will have an audience of approximately 100 viewers on YouTube. And it's also recorded for the S20 batch on January 21. That's the idea.
This is a great idea. I wish we had these kind of things when I joined HEC.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. We already had 2 sessions with current students, and now it's our 1st session with alumni. And then we're going to make some sessions industry focused with alumni also.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
This is what I just said as well, Oscar. I'm an alum as well, and our batch weren't as organised as this either. We just sort of rolled up to campus and with our WhatsApp group and our Slack channel, and that was it. So I agree. It's nice to see that things are moving forward.
Yeah.
The batches that come after us.
It's a great idea. And as I said, I wish we had these kind of sessions before starting the MBA, so you can take the most you can of it.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we'll be able to give good insights, because now the pressure's on us to deliver.
Yeah.
Either ways, I think each one of us from the S20 and J20 batch, I'm sure there are many who match these profiles similar to what Oscar, you or Georgie would be pursuing right now. So we are really grateful to have you all here.
Pleasure.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Karine. She's from Cameroon, and she will join in soon. And then we are ready to start at 15 GMT.
From what I read, she's from LBS, right?
Yeah, no, you all are from HEC, but Karim did
she's from
an
HEC
exchange
too.
program with LDS. Yeah, the session is with
okay.
the alumni from HEC.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
It's very weird, and you will get this when you get to France to hear HEC, because for us it's HEC, and you will.
Yeah.
Oh, you're from Peru.
Because
You're
I'm
from Peru, right?
Yeah, I'm from Lima, Peru also. So,
Before I went to HEC in Peru, everybody was calling it HEC.
Yeah, that's the same for me.
HEC.
I made that mistake with Fatima and the group, and they were all saying, what are you saying? What's HEC?
What's HEC?
Yeah, and then I realized that it's HEC for all.
Yeah. Once you get to France, it will always be HEC.
Yeah, exactly. So if today I made that mistake, you know I'm referring to HEC.
Yeah.
Just a couple of minutes. I think Karim should be joining in soon.
No problem. So I was telling Gonzalo that I also went to exchange to Kellogg.
Yeah, that's in the present. We have a presentation of you three, and there's stated that you made an exchange with Kellogg, and I think we have some questions about that also.
Yeah.
Because we will have the fourth part of the session will be an open Q&A, and I think we have at least one question regarding the exchange program.
So everybody is already part of the batch, right? It's not that they are making up their minds to.
No. Everybody is already admitted.
So I can be totally honest about Kellogg.
That's the idea.
So nobody changed his mind now.
Yeah, no worries. Was it a good experience?
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I think one question was precisely what's the difference between the US MBA and the European MBA at HEC.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Apart from tuition.
Money, yeah. But for sure, it's like double, no? Not like double money.
But as a part of the exchange, are you allowed to use the career services there? Because some institutes allow and some institutes don't. Not allowed.
You're not allowed to use the career management services. So it's kind of sad because you are there and you see all these people coming into campus and you can't be part of that.
Okay. I'll do a quick run through of the presentation, just in case there are some corrections to be made, or if you feel you would want to add something in terms of the description, do let me know. I'm just sharing it here.
That's good.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. So, but I think I should wait for that because we are already live on YouTube. So if our viewers have already joined in, then on second thought, I think that would be, I think I'll wait.
I'm sure it'll be fine, whatever you've prepared.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just for you to know, if I lost signal, the signal here where I live is not really good. So
yeah,
I can lose it anytime. Yeah,
those issues.
I don't know, but I'm living in Iquitos, so here, especially here, the internet is a problem. It's a problem.
That's sure. Yeah. That's especially a problem in Iquitos.
Yes.
Are you all hearing a beeping sound? Or
Me not.
no, right? Okay,
Nope.
like a notification sound.
No,
right?
no, it's okay. Yep.
So Kareen will be joining us anytime soon. In case she is a bit delayed, we'll start either ways, and then we will proceed, respecting everyone's time, and hopefully she should join us in between, assuming she wouldn't in the next 2 minutes.
Yep. Maybe we can give just 2 or 3 minutes to Kareen to connect and all the other classmates to connect as well. And we start in 2 or 3 minutes.
So Kareen just messaged she's joining in a minute. So
Yep,
let's wait
perfect.
for a minute and then start.
Yep, for sure.
So for our viewers on YouTube Live, we'll just start in a couple of minutes as we wait for our third speaker.
Mhm.
Fatima, maybe you can go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll start sharing the screen. Just a minute. I'll do that. the screen is visible right now, right? I just want to confirm.
Right.
Okay. So let's begin, Stefano. I'm sure Karine will join us at least by the time we reach the icebreakers.
Sure.
So a very good evening to everyone. We extend a warm welcome on behalf of the HEC S20 Roundtables team as we begin the third session of the series. I'm Fatima, and I have with me Stefano, we will be the hosts for the day today. As always, our goal is to ensure that each one of us is best prepared for the MBA experience with the right expectation, the right objectives, and absolute clarity as to how we can make the best of our time at HEC Paris. And hence, we are both joined today by the S20 and the S21 batch of HEC Paris. The session is targeting them. Stefano?
Yep. Thanks, Fatima. So welcome to all of you guys, and thank you for joining us today. We have already completed, as you know, 2 sessions with current students in which we discussed their take on personal and academic life on campus and also received advice from them. You can find both links if you want to see again the sessions or if you missed them in this same YouTube channel. So we will now proceed to understand in detail the professional aspect of life at HEC and after. For that, we are extremely fortunate to be joined by 3 distinguished alumni from HEC Paris. First, we have Oscar from Peru. He's from the 2015 batch, and he's currently working as sales manager in Peru with Arca Continental. This is Peru's partner and bottler of the Coca-Cola company. We also have Karine. We are just waiting for her. She will be just connecting. She's from Cameroon, and she's from the 2018 batch, and now works as an M&A consultant with EY in London. And we have Georgie from Australia. She's a sports professional from the 2017 batch and is currently working as a senior project manager with 17 Sports in Paris. You can see more details of the speakers in the screen before you. So thanks a lot to our 3 panelists, Oscar, Karine, and Georgie, for their time and participation in this session. We will be addressing 3 main aspects today. First is taking advantage of the additional HEC components for our future careers, that's specifically exchange programs, dual degrees, and clubs. The second topic will be the career launch or job search. The third one will be value of the HEC MBA and next step to keep progressing in our careers. And finally, we will have a Q&A section so you can send your questions during the session and we'll be collating them. So without any more preambles, I will pass the word to Fatima to start the session with our first topic.
Thanks, Stefano. So to begin with, I would like each of the panelists, if you could tell us more about your current role in specific, how did you get it? And if it was the industry you intended to get into while starting your MBA?
Ladies first.
Okay, yeah, sure. I wasn't sure who should go first. So hi, everyone. I'm Georgie from Australia, as Stefano introduced me. So yeah, as it said on my bio, I work as a senior project manager at 17 Sports. We're a boutique sports consulting agency that works with brands, athletes, and rights holders on how they can use their platform and use sport to make the world a better place, essentially. It's founded on the notion that businesses can do well by doing good as well. So it's not a charitable operation. The point is also to make money. It is called 17 Sport after the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And I've been working there since February as a project manager. So working with some of our clients on developing and implementing their projects on the ground wherever they may be based. So I'm based in Paris, but we also have offices in San Francisco. And we have employees based everywhere: Berlin, Washington, DC, Baltimore, the Netherlands. So we are remotely based and pretty much everywhere. So the question about whether it's what I wanted to do before I came to the MBA, I wrote in my admissions essays that I was transitioning out of the sports apparel market into luxury. That's why I chose HEC. And I was in the program for about 5 minutes when I realized that that was complete bullshit and there was no way that I was going to luxury. It just wasn't my thing. And that's not because luxury isn't great, because it is, but I have no passion for it, and you need to be passionate about what you want after the MBA in order to get there. So I had come from the sports industry and realized that I loved that, and that's what made me live and breathe. And so that's what I would be pursuing after the MBA. So I use the program, the internship phase, the customized phase with the MBA project and with the dual degree to help get me to the position that I'm in today. Did that answer all of the questions?
It did. Thank you. What about you, Oscar?
Well, hi everybody, I'm Oscar. I'm from Peru. I'm actually living in Peru. Well, about me, I work now for Arca Continental. Arca Continental is one of the biggest bottlers for Coca-Cola in Latin America, and not only Latin America, I think it's also in the world. I work as a sales manager. I've been working in this company for about a year now.
Okay.
And what can I tell you about the question you asked, if this was or where what I wanted to do after the MBA or before the MBA. I thought I will study this and then I go to this kind of job. I would say I wanted to stay in consumer goods. I wanted to stay in this business. Maybe change roles because I want to go to work in marketing, but it's still a work in progress. So my time will come. And lately in this session, we can discuss about these kind of transitions from different areas.
Excellent. So we're joined by Karine as well. Karine, are we audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, Karine. Thank you, Karine, for joining us. So I'll just give a quick summary of what has happened so far. So we've just started our session and we had an icebreaker question wherein we wanted to know if a little more in detail about your current role and if this was an industry you wanted to get into while pursuing your MBA.
Okay, hi everyone. So me, I'm from Cameroon. Before MBA, I was working, I have a background in petroleum engineering. And I was working for the national oil company in Cameroon. Mostly 8 years in operation and 2 years as a strategy, as a project manager, sorry. And I wanted to do an MBA. I mean, the real reason was I needed a break from my work. The politically correct reason is that I wanted to take my career to the next level and transit into finance, which I did actually. And so now I'm working as a M&A consultant with EY. I'm working in transaction advisory services. We are mostly doing pre-deal work. One example, for instance, is like if a company wants to carve out, separate a business, we ensure that they get the most of the business they are going to sell. So it's just like if it's a divorce, for instance, and you have a house and you have to divide the house in two. So you need to ensure that each part of the house has a kitchen, has a bathroom, has, all those stuff so that they can be sold as a standalone company, right? And this is what we're doing basically in transaction advisory. And
okay.
Yeah, so is it what I wanted to do prior to the MBA, prior to do my MBA? Yeah. I wanted to do investment banking, but this is not it. This is more or less like what guys are doing in investment bank company. So, yeah.
So in fact, we were particularly interested in your profile because you're one of the alums who have actually done a career transition, industry transition to be specific. So we have a question regarding that during the session. Today's session is actually divided into 3 key parts. The first topic that we will be addressing today, just give me a minute as I share,
It's HEC additional components.
Yes. So the first topic that we wish to be sharing today is how do you take advantage of the additional HEC components, especially because we have exchange programs on offer. You've got dual degree with Yale and SciencePo and many other institutions, certifications and industry clubs on campus as well. So my first question is to you, Georgie. You've completed your Master's in Public Affairs with SciencePo along with your MBA. So how did that add value to your MBA experience in general and specifically to your job search, the entire experience?
Okay, I mean, that's a great question, and I do get asked that regularly. Honestly, the reason I pursued it was because it aligned with my career ambitions afterwards. I wanted to stay in Paris and I wanted to work in sports. And I went to a conference related to my MBA project because I did an MBA fieldwork project, and realized that in the world, and certainly in France being the administrative capital of the world, that the relationship between public institutions and sports organizers and brands and everything like that is really intertwined, and I had no knowledge of that. So this was in April, so we'd already started the customized phase. I was in S17. That I was at this conference and had this epiphany, and I knew that we had a dual degree with Sciences Po, but I'd never really thought about it, honestly. So when I came to France to do the MBA, I had no intention of doing a dual degree. But then because I had this epiphany, I was like, hell, why not throw my hat into the ring? So I suppose my overarching message there is that you don't have to make this decision now before you've even started the program. You have plenty of time to decide to do this, and the other guys will talk about exchanges, and that's very much the same thing. You don't have to make a decision about this now. It's worth investigating your options, but you can take your time and figure out what's right for you, and maybe you will have the same sort of epiphany that I had. And the other selfish benefit of it was that I got to be a student for longer, because obviously the MBA is 16 months, and with the dual degree, we skip a term of the MBA. So I have 12 months in the MBA, then 12 months in the Sciences Po Master of Public Affairs. So in total, I was a student for 2 years, which, like, to Corinne's point, being tired of your career and wanting a break is great. Being able to sleep till 10 on a Wednesday if you don't have class. Now having gone back to work again, I would love to go back to being a student. It's honestly like being a mid-career student is the best thing ever. Unemployment is highly underrated. And so, I mean, that was a nice offshoot. And I won't go into the nitty-gritty of the program itself, because obviously that's not really the point of today's session. But if there is anyone who's interested in learning more about the Sciences Po dual degree, then you're welcome to reach out to me and we can chat about it. But it did give me an additional dimension to my master's study, which has helped me in my ambition to stay in France and work in the sports industry. And by that, just to quickly say, certain electives that were specifically related to the sports industry that don't exist in the MBA, and some additional sort of like incubator programs that I got involved with, to having like a different group of perspectives, because at Sciences Po we're do-gooders and at HEC we're profit maximizers, and it's quite a different vibe, and it was nice to be able to experience those two things.
That's great. What about you, Oscar, and as well, Kareem? Like, you all have done your exchange programs with Kellogg's and London Business School. So both of you all, how did that add value to your MBA profile, and specifically from an employment perspective? Especially you, Kareem, because from Cameroon, I think with London Business School, you're also now working in UK.
Well, for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kareem.
Sorry. In my case, I would say, it plays a big role, because living in London helped me realize that, I enjoyed the city. And also, I did my undergrad in Paris. I've been living 8 years in Paris before. So I knew Paris, and when I joined MBA, I knew that I wanted to do an exchange. Being in London Business School, I met a lot of finance company. There were a lot of events organized on campus. So I've been able also to make my mind on on, yeah, I really want to walk into finance. Even the class I took during my exchange were oriented toward that, and events I attend. And I spoke to a lot of professionals as well. And then I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. So I would say the exchange play a big role into that.
Okay. What about you, Oscar?
Yeah, well, for me, many of you should know this, but Kellogg is a school mostly recognized for marketing and strategy. So it's important for me for this intention that I have to transition from sales to marketing. It didn't work out as I expected, but as I said, it is still a work in progress. And yeah, but when I go to interviews, people read my CV and they say, "Oh, you went to Kellogg," and it's always something they mention, because at least in Peru, Kellogg is most recognized, most well-known brand as a business school, as a school specialized in marketing. That it is HEC. HEC, to be honest, most people don't know too much about it in Peru. So for my intentions, I think it's something that will, of course, be very valuable for me in the future.
Perfect. Kareem, one more question. This is a follow-up with respect to your internship in London Business School. Did that help you in securing an opportunity in UK? Was that a direct consequence of the exchange program?
I would say yes, I would say 50-50, to be honest. Most of my decision, if I have to be honest, most of my decisions are mostly 50% personal and 50% professional. I would say no, 60% personal and 40% professional. As well as I say, my decision to do an MBA was also personal reason. So being in London, I made the decision to live in London as well because my partner was in London. So for me, it was, I was, okay, I'm going to look for a job here. And also, London Business School have a great exposure to the finance industry. So, I mean, you are definitely exposed to them. And I met the company at an event on the campus, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to work for them. I took time to really reach out people in the company, did a lot of networking events, go to a company event and speak to professional there. I believe being in London helps instead of having to travel from Paris to London to do that. Then I would say, yeah, 40%, I would say definitely.
Great. Great. So that's the first session about maximizing additional opportunities on campus. For the second session, I move on to my co-host, that's Stefano.
Thanks, Fatima. Yeah. So first, before starting with the second topic, Karim, we wanted to apologize with you. We just realized we had an issue sending you the invitation to our session. So apologizing to that. So thanks, Fatima, again. We now enter our second topic, that is the career launch or the job search. And we would like to know from an employment perspective, how can we leverage the HEC's network? So the first question would be for Georgie, but of course, Oscar and Karine, you can add on anything on the same question too. The question, Georgie, here would be, what role did the alumni network play in your job search? Were they maybe like mentors or just contact points within companies?
So for my personal situation, I mean, there are a couple of answers to this. The first thing I'll say is I joined the Alumni Association, the HEC Alumni Association, almost as soon as I started the program. And when you arrive on campus, you'll get a presentation from them and they will tell you to sign up then. And you know, they'll have some kind of introductory offer. And they've sort of changed membership in a way at the moment, but I'm sure it's the same thing. You don't have to wait till you graduate before you can become a member of the Alumni Association. And so from that, you get about a bazillion emails about all the events that are going on. And you also have the option to sign up to have an alumni mentor. You fill in a sort of Word document explaining, you know, what you're looking to get out of a mentoring relationship and blah, blah, blah. So I did that. I took the advantage of that opportunity and had a mentor from the HEC alumni. And I went to the odd alumni event, including a really nice luxury event that was held at Google's office in Paris. Now, I'll admit I went to that mainly because I was like, when else am I going to get to go to Google? Because I knew I was never going to get hired by Google. But there are heaps of that stuff. Like the alumni community in Paris is really active, and there's a club for absolutely everything, both from the leisure side and from the professional side. And, you know, given it's the hot topic of today, you know, the finance, banking side of things seem to be quite active. Clearly not my domain of expertise, but once I accompanied a friend to one of their mixers, and there were lots of people there, and it seemed to be quite good, even though it clearly wasn't my target market. So on that side of things, I got engaged with the alumni community, and I would say, like, as a piece of advice, if you are thinking of wanting to lean on the alumni community, it's never too early to reach out to people and ask for advice. I would caveat that with saying you need to know what you want to get out of the relationship. Like, you need to either be because you want to understand specifically what their job is, or you want to understand how their career path worked, or you have a specific question or something that you're mulling over, or a challenge. Don't just reach out to them and be like, hey, can we have a phone call? And then be like, so I want to do what you're doing. Like, you need to have something that something tangible for them to grab onto before you can get in touch with them. So if you're still a bit like waffling around and not sure, which is totally fine, you haven't even started the MBA, and when you get to the end, some of you will still be waffling around and not really sure, trust me. Don't reach out to those alums if you don't have something that you can really exchange over and debate. When it comes to getting my current job and getting my internships, it had nothing to do with the HEC alumni network. My OECD internship came from a Sciences Po connection, a professor, and my Paris 2024 internship came from my personal network. So I got those jobs from networking, but it had nothing to do with the alumni. Now, that's not to say that means the alumni is shit. It's just that that's how things work for me. And also I acknowledge that I'm niche. I'm always, that girl who's, the sports one or whatever. I was known even in the class as that person. And so, maybe, this is just the world according to Georgie. There are many different ways of doing things. And that was my experience, but that's not to say that that'll be everyone's. And certainly here in France and in Paris, the alumni community is strong, and the feedback I always hear is that the alumni community are keen to engage and to help people out, so long as they're not getting like inundated with 50 requests. So if everyone wants that American Express internship, if 50 of you email Alex Theodosi, who was in my batch, who's now at American Express, she's probably only going to get back to like a couple of you because she's got a job to do. But yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, that's great. You just answered also our second question, that was somehow when and how should we approach the alumni. But it's
Sorry,
great to know
I jumped
that,
ahead.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect to know that. And I don't know if Oscar and Karin maybe want to add something on that.
Yes, well, I agree with almost everything that Georgie has said. I haven't really approached to alumni in my specific case. I can tell you that my intention from day one that I started the MBA, even before that, was to come back to my country. So I didn't really connected that much with alumni in France or even in other places. I did connect with people in Peru. Whenever I can, I go to these alumni reunions that happen every month. No, but like 2 times a year at least. And well, in my specific case, people, HEC alumni that work in Peru, most of them are working in finance. So maybe for you, Stefano, for Gonzalo, it would be a good connection network. But to me, it was not that really useful. But what I can tell you is people, alumni, once were in your position. So if you reach to them, most of them will be will be really happy to help you if they can. But as Georgie said, you have to be specific with what you want. You have to, it's not just an approach and, hey, tell me about your experience. No, you have to come with some idea of what you want to do, what you want to learn, what you want to know. And in the end, if you want an interview, say it. I appreciate if I could have an interview with you, with somebody in your team. I don't know. But it is important to start making connections, I would say, from day one.
Perfect. That's good to know. I don't know, Karine, if you want to add something on that, or if that already covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In my case, I think it's like Georgie, and hey, hi Georgie, by the way. I I registered to the alumni because they make this presentation when we start the MBA. But on the contrary to George, I didn't use the mentor. I didn't apply for the mentor. I remember I checked that and I was thinking about doing it, but I just found out that I had to write an essay or something like that. So I keep postponing it. And I finally didn't do that because I got deterred by the application thing. And I was like, oh, I already wrote too much essay with my MBA, so I didn't feel like going for another one. So finally didn't use it. And the other reason is that I found earlier in the MBA that I have a non-MBA traditional background. I was coming from oil and gas, working for a national oil industry, 10 years experience, working in Africa. Honestly, career I used to more really standard MBA candidates. So I didn't really find help there. So I just decided, yeah, I'm gonna develop my own network and really work on my profile myself. And so I use more LinkedIn instead of the alumni network. I found LinkedIn more useful in my case, like to speak to much more broader people. I reach out people from other business school, not just MBA. So I really expand it. But to echo what Georgie said on reaching out alumni, I would definitely encourage you guys to do that and to prepare for the coffee chat. I found coffee chat for me that was one of the main resources. But you definitely have to prepare it because I think there's nothing more annoying than having someone reaching you out and not being aware of your background or even the company you are working in and asking like really questions that you can find on the internet, right? And so I would say you reach people, make sure it's most of the time 30-minute coffee chat, make sure you prepare your question to get the most out of it. And and I think a lot of people are really willing to help, or if they see that you really prepare, that they can even like recommend you to other people or introduce you to other people in the company to whom you can talk to. I mean, that's in my experience, that was the case, but just make sure you are prepared.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You three have gave us already a lot of insights on how and when to get to the alumni, and also to know that maybe the alumni network is not always suitable for everybody's goals. No, so it's very good to know that. Thank you for that. The next question, this question would be for Karine and Oscar, and maybe we can start with Karine. What role did the career services play in your job search, and what advice would you give us to take full advantage of it?
That's an interesting question. In my case, as I mentioned, really, I realized, listen, your profile is not what I used to see. So I think after I figured that out after my first interaction with the career. So I used the career services for 2 or 3 mock interview. I remember one was for Amazon because we have interview on campus. And the second one was, I don't remember, for BCG or something like that, where I spoke to someone from the career, but I didn't really use the career. So don't get me wrong, use the career if really that fits your background and is aligned with what you want to do. Me, in my case, it wasn't really. So No, I really did not, but don't go that way. Okay. I mean, make the most of the career service. But my advice for you will be make sure you do your part of the job, because what I've seen, and I've seen that even in LBS, so it's not something that is specific to HEC. You will find that a lot of people are complaining about the career services. I mean, like, uh, and I think in HEC, when I was in HEC, I was just like, people are complaining too much about the career. And I arrived at LBS and I found like they were complaining even more than HEC people, right? And I think this comes from the fact that people put really high expectation on the career. Why you come, I mean, I take the case for HEC, you are like 250 students. And also, I think the career, I mean, like Georgie or Oscar could correct me on that one. I think the career is also taking care of the grand decor. So let's say you have like 500 students that you have to take care of, and you have like 1 hour, you can book 1 hour for a chat with some career advisor. And I'm like, I mean, what do you expect? They cannot do miracle. You have to be aware of that. You have to do your part of the job and really go to them after having done your part of the job. I use them for the mock interview because for me, it was a good opportunity to put myself into a situation, like really on the situation interview. So it makes more sense for me. But like to write my resume, I did that myself. And then I just went to them like for just review, but I didn't really rely on them like to write my resume, then connect me to company and like, okay, write my cover letter. And I think some people have that expectation. So I would say do your part of the job and really don't put too much expectation on the career. And as I used to say to some of my classmates, even at LBS, they can even bring Mark Zuckerberg to the campus, but it's on you to deliver, right? You can be in front of them, and if you don't deliver, I mean, yeah, what's the point of bringing you Mark Zuckerberg if you're not ready? Because not a lot of students don't do that part of the job, unfortunately. So don't be those people.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Oscar, I don't know if you want to add something on the career services role and any advice.
Well, I really didn't use it.
Okay.
or not that much, but I can tell you a couple of things about they have to bring you some opportunities, but most opportunities you have to search for it on your own. Even outplacement companies, when they prepare you to go back into the market, they prepare you to work on your network, how to make connections. But it's not that they are bringing you the opportunities. They are not saying, "Oh, there's a job here. You can apply to this one. I will make the connection for you to apply to this." No, it doesn't work like that. And for most of the career management services, I would say it works like that. They prepare you so you can be able to go and look for the opportunities. However,
Perfect.
there are some companies that they will bring onto campus, and I would say that's what most people complain about it, because they think that in other programs maybe they are able to get more opportunities, more companies coming into campus. I saw this at Kellogg. I saw, for example, there was like this week McKinsey is coming to do interviews on campus. Next week is coming, I don't know, Bain, and next week is coming Amazon. In HEC, I really didn't see that. The only company that came into campus to do some interviews was Amazon. I cannot remember about other company doing that. They came, they gave speeches, and you can reach them, but it's not that they came specifically to, as you said, to recruit people. Something important that Karim mentioned, and I would say this is what I regret the most of not having used when I was at HEC about the Career Management Center, is the mock interviews. Because I don't know the situation of most of you, but at least for me, my last period of job search was when I was just finishing, no, not even finishing, because I stayed in the company where I was doing my internship. So I would say it was like 10 years since I was in a job search period. So getting into practice, getting into the situations, the kind of questions they can ask you when you go into interviews, it's very useful. And if you are not really prepared to do that, you will struggle in your first interviews. And that's what happened to me when I come back to Peru. And you have the opportunity to do it. At this, when I was there, was 4 years ago, we had some people that was specific for MBAs. I think that the next year, the following year, they changed this, and now they share the CMC with Granecol. But they have time, and you can reach to them if you want to do this. And I would say it's really important to start practicing as soon as you can, because most of you are probably are not in really familiarized with the interview process at this moment.
Yep, thank you very much. Those were very useful tips for us. And we already know that it's up to us to take advantage of the career services and also to do our homework before meeting them. So thank you for that.
Yep. Can I just add something as well? Like,
yeah, for
especially for those of you thinking about making the transition into consulting or investment banking, my advice for you would be, this is really right now that you start preparing for that, except if you have done like for the consulting. If you want to join I think almost all the consulting firm, you have the case interview, and case is really something that is pretty, honestly, I struggle with that, to be honest. I remember I had an interview with BCG 1 month after joining the MBA. And I just applied randomly to BCG just to see. I mean, I was just like, okay, I'm going to see if my resume works. That's how I tried. And they say, oh, we like your profile. We would like to interview you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? And I wasn't prepared, and I keep postponing this interview. I keep finding reason until June, right? And I finally, obviously it didn't work, but like, just be prepared if this is what you are aiming for. And also for the investment banking, because some student, some prospective student reached me for the investment banking. They intend to transit in investment banking. And my advice to them was, you start preparing for it right now. Honestly, you're gonna be in competition with other business school for the internship. And if you're not prepared, there's no point. I've seen people in London Business School they start preparing really earlier. So my advice with you would be like, start looking at it right now and make sure you attend company events. Investment banking, I found out that people that they invite at the interview are the people who've been attending their event, because this is how they shortlisted the candidates. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Karim. That would be very useful for the people getting in those industries. So we came to our last question from this section, and then we will pass to the third topic with Fatima. But before passing to the third topic, we would want to ask Georgie our last question. And it's, what's the importance of the internship to get a full-time job? And is it more important for some specific industries to have an internship in order to get a full-time job in that sector?
Okay, this is like the $1 million question. There is no one right way. There are certain industries that Corinne has just mentioned where it's a huge advantage if you can get an internship. And that's obviously consulting if you're aiming for MBB, and investment banking. but that doesn't mean that you can't get into those without doing an internship either, or with doing an internship that's not with them. I have a friend who's at BCG in London whose internship was not with BCG in London, and was sort of like on a different topic with a boutique sort of firm. So she had an internship, but it wasn't in doing consulting in a big like MBB. From my personal case, I think the internships were really useful because I'm from a niche background, but also I'm from Australia, and the companies that I've worked for, no one in France had ever heard of. So both HEC and Sciences Po on my CV are a like big plus wanting to be in France, because those are the biggest brands that there are in higher education here. But also having getting Paris 2024 onto my resume, and so having a French organization that within the sports industry is obviously really well known, that does get your foot in the door. To points that have already been raised earlier, you still have to do the work. You have to be prepared, and you have to be willing to go beyond in terms of research, not just look up what's on the website and stuff like that. So, you know, it's not just a matter of getting it onto your CV. You still have to be able to make it count for you. Now, I mean, I did get a job in the industry that I wanted in the city that I wanted, so that's super. But ultimately, you know, my journey isn't over yet, and I would love to go back to Paris 2024, and I haven't succeeded in convincing them that they have a job for me yet. So yes, I got the internship that I wanted, but I haven't necessarily been successful in turning it into the job that I wanted, although I will caveat that by saying I'm very happy in the job that I have, and I'm very fortunate to have the job that I have. So yeah, I mean, all that's to say is that the internships definitely helped me. They didn't necessarily deliver 100% the end goal. And internships turned into a bit of a fever. Like the first few people get them, and then everyone starts to stress about whether or not they've got one. And if you haven't got one by February, oh my God. But the reality is people keep getting internships right throughout the school year. I got mine at Paris 2024 in June. So I'd already started my MBA project. We were already more than halfway through the program. You know, I decided I was going to Sciences Po. I wasn't even staying in the MBA. And that's when I got mine. So the other thing is to not make it the be all and end all of your MBA experience. You will get a job afterwards. You've been hired before. You've been selected into a highly selective and competitive MBA program. You will get a job afterwards. To Oscar's point, the first job out of the MBA might not be the ultimate dream job, but it's the step in the right direction. It's the next step for you, and you'll get there eventually. So yes, internships brought me a lot, and I'm glad that I had them, and I am grateful. But, you know, if I hadn't have got my internship with Paris 2024, maybe I wouldn't have procrastinated over my MBA project for 18 months, and I would have finished it in much better time. So there are trade-offs in all of these things. So absolutely pursue them and think outside the box. Don't necessarily just be like, oh, it's not McKinsey, so I don't want to do anything. Just see what other opportunities are. Like the MBA is a chance to explore a little bit as well and try new things and experiment a little bit and potentially not quite get what you're looking for, but at least you cross something off the list. And definitely don't make it the be all and end all of your MBA, because it really isn't, and they go by in a flash. And a lot of the ones here in France are shit pay. So worst salary I've ever had in my life. So, you know, just weigh all of these things up and decide what is right and meaningful for you.
Thanks, Yuri. Thanks for your advice. So now we are ending the second topic. I'll pass the word again to Fatima to start with our third topic of the session. Fatima, you have to turn your microphone on, sorry.
Yes.
Now,
so with that, we move to the third section of the session today, which is maximizing the value of the HEC MBA. You've done with your MBA, you've secured a job. What are the next steps? So my first question is to all of y'all. What value or what tools did the HEC MBA give you that has helped you to be in the position that you are today? A quick question to all of y'all. Anyone can take it.
I mean, I can speak. I would say that every person's experience is going to be different and personal, because everyone comes to the MBA with different existing skills. So you're not all going to take away the same things. What I do think when I reflect on like the work I'm doing now and the work I did before the MBA, I think the MBA sort of gave me the opportunity to think much more broadly and think much bigger and not believe that anything is possible in the like lame way that you say that kind of thing, but more that not to be quite so hemmed in, I would say, and have more faith and confidence that there are certain things that I can do. If you'd asked me to design a strategy for something in my last job before I came to the MBA, I wouldn't have known where to start. And lo and behold, I start my job and I start doing that without even really thinking about it, because you do it 100 times in the MBA. Like, I mean, that's just one example, but I think that the MBA sort of is a big booster and it's a big motivator, and you come out of it like at 1,000 miles an hour, like not necessarily wanting to change the world, but being like, right, ready to make my mark and everything like that, which can make for a pretty hard landing as well. But I would say that broadening my horizons and everything like that, I would say that's probably like a tangible thing that I can put my finger on, because honestly speaking, I don't really remember how to use SPSS and all the statistics stuff that I learned, and I got a C in corporate finance, so clearly I was not going in that direction. Like those sorts of things, those memories kind of fade. I would say it was more just the ethos and the practice you get and putting yourself into situations that are uncomfortable and unfamiliar, and how you can then take that into whatever you go on to afterwards.
Great. Anyone else if you would want to add, or shall I move to the next question? Yeah, Oscar.
If I can add something to that, is this may sound like a cliche, but it's completely true. This opens your mind. This experience makes you expand your horizons. It depends a lot of where you come from. At least in my case, I have only worked in Peru. I have only lived in Peru. I traveled to other countries, but it's different to go and live there in Paris, in France, and be every day with people from 50 countries around the world. And you get to learn from their experience. I would say the most you get from the MBA, the lessons are important, but the most you will get is from your peers. All the experiences, all the knowledge they bring to class are the most valuable thing you will get from your MBA. And this is something that stands, especially, HEC especially stands for this because of the diversity. If you see other programs, you don't have this 90% of diversity that HEC has. I think this is one of the most important features that HEC has, and you have to take advantage of that.
Great. Karine, would you like to add a few? What?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I took, my takeaway from my MBA is essentially soft skills, I would say. As Georgie mentioned, I was laughing when she mentioned the SPSS. I almost forgot about this thing, and I'm like, oh, why did you even show that to us? You know, like you will learn a lot of stuff that you never use. And the only thing I remember right now, I mean, is more about the soft skills, the people that I met. And I think my regret actually would be that I didn't take enough advantage of my classmates. Which I think is, for me, the most important thing that you should take from your MBA, because what will last until, I would say, maybe the end of your life is really the connection that you will make. And I realized actually when I was doing the MBA, I think the admin or all those people, they didn't stress that enough, is really your first network is your classmate. And I found that even when I was job searching, I had some classmates who have that background, who have been working in industry that I was looking for, right? And I was still looking for a network outside of the school because I didn't know about their background. And when you talk to them, you just realize that actually I didn't know about this person. It could have been even more helpful than all the other that reaching out people outside of the school. So I would say your classmate enjoy your classmates, really get to know your classmates, talk to them, and get to know them in a personal manner, not just during drinks at the piano, what's the room of this thing again? I forgot, but like all the drinks, because you will do a lot. There will be a lot of drinks event, and actually people get to know each other like through a drink, but like you don't know their personal story, you don't know where they are coming from, you don't know their industry, but the professional background. But actually, you could really you should and you should leverage their background. So that would be my advice, and also that's the thing that I took from my MBA.
Thank you, Corinne. And in fact, for my next question, which I think all of you all have in a way answered, but I would still want to ask you all, your HEC MBA has opened one big door in your career. So what should an MBA graduate do to keep opening bigger doors as they progress in their careers? So apart from networking, which I assume it will be a given, what would be the other things an MBA graduate should keep in mind?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, Corinne and I had our graduation ceremony about 12 months ago. So we're still like, we've only just stepped out. And so I need to figure that out, but so that I can like do that for myself, before I can advise you guys on what to do. What I will say is I talked to an alum, one of the alums who interviewed me before the program, who's also Australian, and he mentioned what I sort of referred to before, and that you come out of the MBA with a head full of steam and it can be a bit of a hard landing sometime, and that eventually like peters out back into the daily grind of you know, working in the MBA is just a blip on your radar, which if we think about in the grand scheme of our careers, of course, that's what's going to happen for all of us. It feels like it's this huge looming thing for you guys right now, but you know, 16 months goes by in a flash, and you know, that would be my overall message to you. It goes by so fast, and make the most of every moment that you can. But I think it's easy to just sort of like get stuck down, and so if you really do want to try and like continue to take something from the MBA, you need to find ways to stay invigorated and to maintain that energy, which is easier said than done, and I don't have all the answers for that. But one of the cases we read in OB, and I'm pretty sure Corinne would have read this as well, was a case where an INSEAD case where they interviewed MBA students 10 years out of the MBA, and they talked about their past 10 years. And then we got to do a fun exercise where we predicted our next 10 years. So we had to forecast the future. But basically, a lot of the overarching theme from that was that people did something for 2 years and then they realized that wasn't really what they wanted after all, and then they went on to something else. So I haven't been out of the MBA for 2 years yet, so I don't know what that realization will be and what I'm going to go on to next, although potentially I landed in the right place, so that won't happen for me. But the people who wanted MBB or investment banking and are burnt out after 2 years of 18-hour days, maybe they'll be suddenly like, oh, the travel sounded glamorous, but that's not what I want in my life anymore. So yeah, I'd say stay tuned. Yeah, and I'll let you know when I figure it out myself.
Thank you, Georgie. So if I tweak the question a bit and I head it to Oscar, Georgie's mentioned that 2 years is a good enough time to figure out what to do to open bigger doors. What would be your take, since it's 2020 now? Oscar, this question's for you.
Yeah, but as I said, it's still a work in progress, and just keep this in mind. And it's the answer is kind of obvious, but the HEC MBA will give you a credential, but it's up to you after that. Once you get a job, you have to build your career on your own. You will have the credential, yes, and people will say, okay, you are from HEC MBA, but I have to see that on your daily job. You have to see that on your work. And I really don't have a question for how to open big doors. It depends only on you, only on your work, only on your abilities and what you demonstrate day by day. And just to add on to what Georgie said, it's how you keep the motivation on every day, so you can go up and up and up. that's what I can say about it. I'm still not there. I had some trouble, I kind of struggle after the MBA in getting a job, but I am on my way now, and I know what I have to do. As I said, it's a credential you have, but then you have to demonstrate why you have that credential.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Oscar. So we have one question related to, this was something which we were discussing among ourselves, and we realized that some countries have a concept of mentors, and sometimes it's country specific or culture specific. And hence this question is for you, Georgie, because you are a part of the tech group at HEC. And the others as well, if you all can add to the question, which is, do you have a mentor either from your organization or the HEC network or otherwise? And how much has it helped? And would you recommend, or how would you recommend us to have or get hold of a mentor? Either systematic processed ones or in organic mentors?
Yeah, so I already talked earlier about the Alumni Association mentoring program, and that's short term. You don't go into a long, because I mean, you pay to be a member of the Alumni Association, but then you get that included as part of what you've paid for. So I think it was capped at 3 or 6 months, and my mentor was very helpful, but we didn't build a really strong rapport. I'm not still in contact with him, which is not reflective of the experience. It's just like how things roll out. So obviously there's that. There's TEC, which you mentioned, which is the executive committee, which is an on-campus mentoring program that takes place in the first 6 months of the MBA. So you will receive, or may have already received, where are we, may know, you will probably soon receive, if you're in the S20 class, an invitation to apply for TEC. And TEC is like the great unknown of the MBA, because no one's figured out how to really talk about this part of the HEC MBA program. But it's basically, well, for when I was there, 2 groups of 12 students who have a mentor, and you have monthly sessions with this mentor, one-to-one, and then you have a group session, so all 12 of you, with a guest speaker who is someone who is generally has been a CEO, owned their own company, someone who's quite advanced in their career, who talks to you about their career and then opens up for you to answer any questions that you want to ask them. And it's done in this sort of like what happens in tech stays in tech sort of ethos. So people are encouraged to be very open, and in my experience in my group, we were very open, knowing that there was nothing that was going to be shared outside of the room that we're in. Through the course of that, I am still in touch with the mentor that led our group, although not on a formal mentoring basis, just that we happen to live in the same arrondissement, so we like cross paths every now and then, and I got along well with him, so happily like have a chat, but not in a really strong mentoring basis. But other people in my group are either in contact with him or some of the guest speakers that we had, and that really was just the speakers indicated which of them were willing to and open to being contacted in follow-up by us, and then, you know, we would contact them and ask our question or arrange for a coffee or whatever it was. I also had some mentoring as part of Sciences Po, but because that's Sciences Po, I won't talk about that, but anyone who wants to know about that, if they're thinking about Sciences Po, can contact me. And then I have I consider my former boss an informal mentor. So we don't have a mentoring relationship, we are friends, but I still go to him for career advice, because I worked for him for 5 years. We're like similar generations, so similar like life stages and everything like that. So he's a really good person for me to bounce doubts off, essentially, and remind me that that I'm capable when I'm like facing my 70th job rejection or whatever it happens to be. And so I don't have like, there's not a roadmap of how you can acquire one of those, but I would assume, without wanting to be presumptive, that a lot of you, although probably not all of you, would have someone in your existing network, or will encounter someone in the near future who could meet that description. And so that's, I mean, that's just my personal, how I've gone about it. And I encourage you also, if you want to know more about tech, then feel free to contact me about that as well. But I don't have like a definitive, you know, check these boxes and this is how you get a mentor. But those are some of the avenues that you could explore.
So the one established program at HEC for getting mentors, at least for a 6-month period, is the tech program, right?
So there is tech, but it's selective. So you can't just decide to do it. You Corinne mentioned it earlier on about she didn't want to write the essay for the Mentor with the Alumni Association. You have to write a bunch of essays for the tech application. You have to write an essay as why you want to do a certificate. You have to write an essay for MBAT, probably, I don't remember. But you have to, your essay writing days are not over now that you're in the MBA. There's plenty more essays to come. So yeah, with tech, you'll receive an invitation to apply. You write a bunch of like, you know, short paragraphs, like essays. And then the tech mentors select their group, and it's on the grounds of diversity. So the idea is that you don't have two people of the same nationality in a group, and you have 6 girls and 6 boys in each group. So for those of you who are from minority nationalities like me, and I say minority because within the scheme of HEC, then you have much better chance than if you're in one of the majority nationalities. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it's not something that just everyone can sign up for. It is a selective program. And if you don't remember to apply, you'll also miss out, and you have to apply before you get to campus. So I like sent my application on the last day and was like, oh, will I even do it? And I'm super glad that I did. But yeah, I can encourage you to keep an eye out for that if you are interested in the opportunity.
Excellent. So that was the questions which we thought would more or less summarize our intentions today, which is to give more clarity to the MBA students, the incoming MBA batch. I think we should now move on to the Q&A section, Stefan. Maybe you could start.
Perfect. Thanks, Fatima.
Unless, thanks. Obviously, if Karine would want to add regarding the mentor,
for sure.
Karine or Oscar would want to add.
In my case, I was part of the tech. I really enjoy it, actually. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy in HEC, because it really forces you to reflect on yourself. And I think the program didn't offer much opportunity to do that, like really reflecting on your background, your aspiration, I mean, your story, the story of your life, because we all have, I mean, we all know where we are coming from, right? Even if we don't speak about it, we all know that where we are coming from and what drives us. And I really enjoy that, because it really reflects me on finding, okay, what really mattered to me, what am I doing, what I do. Yeah, as Georgie mentioned, is you have to apply, actually. But my advice for people applying for that is really be you, be yourself. I mean, I know probably you heard about that, but it's really like be honest, because I think it's more, they are more looking about your personal story than about you bragging about the industry you're coming from or any other thing. It's really about what are you going to bring to other people through the session of tech. I mean, I didn't really follow up with the speaker, but they were really good speaker during the tech, sharing their story. I've been touched by 2 or 3 stories, to be honest. My regret is that I didn't follow up. I think I should have done that. So people going for tech, yeah, definitely follow up with the speaker. And I recommend to apply to that, because it's really something that is very, I would say, unique in the MBA. So go for it. And it's just 12 students. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, if I can add something to that.
Absolutely.
Apply to tech. A friend of mine from S14, she told me, apply, do it. And I remember the weekend that I had to do it, my grandma passed away, so I couldn't do it. And from my friends from my batch that did get into the program, everything they said about it was a really good thing, a really great experience. It will take time, and time is something that you will need at some point in your MBA, but it's completely worth to do it. And something else about the mentorship, I would say my case is kind of the same as Georgie. I have a past boss who I worked for 5 years, and he was really successful in what he's doing. So it's somebody that I come back when I need some advice on professional or even personal decisions. And I think it's something good to have a person that you can rely on and you can talk about things in general. and that can give you some good advice.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I think we are ready for our Q&A section. Just for our speakers, while we were live on YouTube, we are still live on YouTube. Our viewers have shared a lot of questions, which is what we are going to ask you right now.
Perfect.
Stefano, you can start.
Yep. Thanks, Farima. And thanks for the panelists too for all the insights that you gave us through the entire session. And now we will begin with the Q&A session. The first question will be, here is the question. Yeah, the question is, what is your opinion on HEC's employment report in terms of percentage of job placement, range of salaries, and other key metrics? Are there any considerations or small letters that we should be aware of that?
You guys are assuming that we've read the employment report, I suppose.
But the previous ones.
I mean, I talked about SPSS before, not my strong suit. So all I would say is, the school really does lean on the, 90 whatever it is % of people employed within 3 months of graduation. And I assume they calculate that within 3 months of when you have the graduation ceremony, which is in June, which for those of us in September is more than 3 months from when we finish the MBA program. So you might still be unemployed at graduation, even though you've been out of the program for 6 months, or you might still be unemployed in August and just get your job in September, and you still count towards that statistic. So I can only talk in generals. I can't talk specifically about HEC, so anything I say could be applicable to any business school. But, there's a reason that certain, that schools like to target people from the US, because if they go back to the US, they get a big salary and that makes their employment figures look good. There's a reason HEC has got a campus in Qatar, because think about how much money they earn there. There's also a reason why when they ask for your incoming salary, that they recruit people who have low salaries, so that if they stay in Europe and their salary goes up by a lot, that improves their metrics. That's not to say that all of those people aren't worthy of their position in the program, that the program isn't good, or that they aren't worthy of the job they get out of afterwards. But like, once you get to school, you'll hear a lot about rankings, and all of these things factor in rankings, and they factor in the number of applications, which factors in the funding for the school, which factors in the services that they can afford to provide you with. So I mean, honestly speaking, I never looked at it when I was in your position, because I was coming from like the middle of nowhere in terms of industries, and was probably, if I had stuck to luxury, I wouldn't have been getting paid a lot of money, because everyone wants that job. So, it was not a factor at all. It's not something that I think about, but, read these things with a critical eye, but they're also not out and out trying to lie to you. It's just that there are strategic choices they can make that make some of those statistics look perhaps better than they would if they didn't think about that at all.
Thank you, Georgie, for that absolutely honest answer. My second question is specifically asking Karine, and the question is, for those interested in finance, would you recommend an exchange at a finance-focused school over doing the specialization in finance at HEC?
Okay. First of all, I would like to say something about your first question. I would say when you will start the MBA, in the first call, you have this class, marketing. Never forget about that, marketing. That's my taken from MBA. Everything is about marketing. I mean, and even you can market yourself. Don't forget about that. There are people who are really good at it, and I think that the ones who are successful in this world, like they know how to market themselves. So never forget about that. I mean, I wish I enjoyed that class more, but really enjoyed that class. Everything in life is about marketing. So yeah, the second point for the finance, I'll say, depending on your background, some people come from finance industry, but finance, you have to make the difference, right? You have the investment banking, for instance. People coming from finance are already aware of that. Me, in my case, I didn't know about the finance industry. So if you're already aware of that, then, and you start preparing now, I would say the fact that you stay in HEC taking the finance class or not taking it doesn't make any difference, because you will be already aware of certain things. If you figure that out later in the process, as I did, I would say you have to put much more effort into preparing yourself for that. I did the exchange, so I didn't do the finance track. What was it? I forgot what was the name, the specialization. I didn't do that, so I don't know how the class was. But honestly, if I were in HEC, I wouldn't have done that, because I really want to diversify my experience. I didn't want to really focus. I wanted to have experience in really many things. And in LBS, the elective I took were not just finance. I took private equity, I took strategy, I took energy. I really exposed myself to almost everything. But when I knew that I wanted to apply for investment banking, I started doing workshop. So I attend workshop from Wall Street Prep. I read a lot on IB. There are books where are really specific to prepare you for interview, to interview for investment banking. So I will advise you to do that. Having the foundation in finance help, but I would say, yeah, it really depends on you. What I found, as I mentioned earlier, IB, they really shortlisted people based on those who attend the event. And I remember when I attend an event at Goldman Sachs, one of the guys he was nice, and he say, you are in this event. It was at the networking one. They made a presentation, and after that, they were a networking event. And he said, actually, the HR reach us in the morning and say, look at those people, talk to people, and write down the candidate will really stand out, right? So even when you go into those events, talking to these people, be aware that actually they are watching you. I'm talking about IB. I did Credit Suisse event, JP Morgan, and all those companies. Just the Birch bracket, those were my target. And from what I've seen is really like through the entire time you're spending in the company, actually, they are watching you. And the way you behave, the way you interact with people, if you are outgoing person, because what they want to figure out is, at the end of the day, do I really want to work with those people or not? That's what they figure out. Because my friends say they know that when you come in the company, they're going to train you, right? So know the basics, the accounting thing, how to build a financial model. Those things, read the Financial Times, which is really important, because the question on it is like, tell me about a transaction you follow, or those type of things. So, I think it's doable. You don't necessarily have to do that. I think what is really important is attending events. This makes the difference. Because also when you write your cover letter, you have to refer, I went to your company, I attend this event, I spoke to this person. So yeah, that would be my advice. No matter where you go, if you stay in HEC or you go for an exchange, it doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you. The next one, Stefano, you can take.
Perfect. The next question is open to any one of you, and it's for someone planning for a functional shift. How would you advise to plan the customized phase between the electives, exchange, and internship?
Oscar, would you want to go for that?
What was for an industry transition?
No,
for
someone planning a functional change or
a functional change. Yeah.
I can't answer that. I didn't change functions.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it's important if you want to go from one area, from one position to another, to get some experience. And for internships, it's better. You will have better opportunities to do it, because it's 3 months to 6 months. So it's not the same when I don't know, if you don't have experience in marketing, they won't give you a brand manager job directly. but it will be better if you have an internship doing some marketing stuff. You will have better chances once you want to get the full-time position. Of course, it is important. It's not like defining, but it will help a lot.
Excellent. So the next question we have is for Georgie. Just a minute. Yeah, so how many students opted for the MPA program in the end? How many actually integrated to the public sector, and for what kind of roles?
Okay, so I think there were 5 of us from the class of 2019. So that's J and S, who applied for Sciences Po. Sorry?
They applied together?
Yeah, so yeah, it's the same, because Sciences Po is a year. So whether you're January or September, you end up in the same class at Sciences Po if you decide to do it. So I think there was 5 of us from the class of 2019 who applied to Sciences Po. 4 of us got in and 3 of us accepted our place. So that's the numbers. And to be clear, I think we're 250 students in the class of 2019. So obviously, like, small number of us applied. Most of us got in, and then, you know, most of us decided to take our position. One of the students was sponsored from Tokyo, so she was always going back to her company, and it's in the private sector, so she's not in the public sector. There's me, who has gone back into the private sector, obviously, but like I talked about before, you know, my motivations for being in the program relating to sport is the public sector is a factor, and particularly here in France. So then the knowledge and the skills still serve me, and the network as well. And then the other student, she's in the private sector, working for a fintech in San Francisco, but she's working on government relations. So she's probably the most of the public sector of those of us who did the dual degree. There are other people in my class at Sciences Po who are in the public sector, obviously, but a lot of them came from the public sector. Like I said before, the HEC students are the profit maximizers, but most of the Sciences Po students, including the people in the MPA class, are the do-gooders. So yeah, it's not that the whole class ended up back in the private sector. It's just that we obviously came from private sector backgrounds, and that's how we ended up in there.
Oh, cool. Stefano?
Perfect. Yep. So the next question would be for Georgie, and it's, could you please elaborate on the dual degrees with Yale, NUS, and NYU?
So I obviously can't tell you how they are because I didn't do them, but I do have classmates who did Yale. There was at least 3 or 4 from our class of 2019 who did Yale. And there was, I want to say there was at least 2 of my S17 classmates who did the NYU dual degree. So yes, obviously they happen. I don't know about NYU, but I certainly know with the Yale, in the case of Yale, these are people who hadn't applied to Yale before they started the MBA. So they got to campus and they considered, and I think Yale came to present, or they did a video presentation about the Masters in Advanced Management, which is so with Yale, it's a Masters in Advanced Management. With NYU, it's an MBA as well. Obviously, Sciences Po is a Master of Public Affairs. There's a dual degree with LSE, which is, I don't know what it is, but it's obviously public sector as well. And there's one with Fletcher, I think, which is law. So there are multiple options. Essentially, the way the dual degree works, no matter what institution you're in, you have to do 3 terms of the MBA, and then it depends on the program. If you're doing an MBA, I think it'll depend on which school you're going to, how many terms you have to do at that school. For the Masters in Advanced Management and for the Master in Public Affairs, and I imagine for LSE as well, you have to do the full degree because that's a 1-year degree program in order to qualify for that degree. So essentially, we get credit from, I should say, for having gone to another school and done an additional learning component, and therefore we get a rebate on our fees, on our tuition. You don't have to pay for that term that you didn't take, and you obviously get to condense the MBA and the other degree into one program. So it is more time efficient than if you did an MBA and then 2 years later decide to go and do the MPA. But with Sciences Po and with Yale, with their program, they don't have the same concession. You have to do the full program from what I understand. Yeah, that's probably about all I can say. I mean, obviously the differences are the subject matter and also the expense and where you're coming from and where you want to be afterwards. So something I always tell people when I talk about the fact that I chose to do Sciences Po is that I could not have left Paris. There's no way, and not because Paris is amazing, whatever, even though I am still here. It's because of the people that I was in the program with. So you have such a short time together, and here I was deciding to shorten that time and make it only 12 months. For me, I didn't want to leave and have the last term where we would all be together ever again, which sounds doomsday, but that's the reality, because not everyone comes to graduation. I didn't want that to take place with me being somewhere else, whether it was LSE or Yale or on exchange or whatever. So that was, for me, that was, Sciences Po was fortunate because it was in Paris and it allowed me to maintain my connections with my MBA classmates and also participate in everything that happened in term 4 in the MBA, which I otherwise would have missed. So like talent show and the last PVAR party and career events that took place, career week, all of that stuff, I still had access to all of those things, even though I was taking class at Sciences Po. So that was also a factor in my decision.
Well, we have one question which is kind of very important for all of us, because considering the situation we are in right now, there are some of us who are planning to defer our September intake to January. So on behalf of them, we have this question, which is how is the MBA experience different with respect to on-campus opportunities and events for September versus January students? Also for investment banking and consulting, do Jan students miss out on companies on campus or opportunities otherwise?
Well, I can take that. I'm actually from J16 intake.
Okay.
The big difference is the timing, because the term 2 for you will end up in the first day of July. So there are not many opportunities for internships if you finish classes in July, and you cannot avoid those classes. So there's people that get internships, but it's not that easy. You won't have as many options as the batch from September will have. That's a big difference, I think.
And is this specific to investment banking and consulting? If you were able
for everything, I would say for everything. Yeah, I remember that there were some people that they had to skip at least 2 or 3 weeks in September because of the length of their internship. They started in July and they had to come back in late September when classes had already started.
Okay.
I don't know specifically about sectors, about investment banking or consulting, but it just gives you less opportunities than you will have if you start in September for internship, I mean.
I would, to add to that, I would say that that everything Oscar said is true, but at the same time, like, and I think I talked about this with you, Fatima, directly.
Yes.
Internship day in February, I was having interviews on campus with Adidas and against a J18 who got the internship and I didn't. So he had 3 months less in the program than I had, and he got that internship and I didn't. So it absolutely is harder. And I mean, Corinne can talk about investment banking. I can't, but from what I understand from my investment banking or my finance focused friends, a lot of internships are decided before Christmas, which means if you're starting in January, you've probably already missed the boat on that unless you've gone about it by yourself before you've started the MBA. And there are some superficial differences as well. You arrive on campus in the depths of winter rather than in the beginning or the end of summer. And you don't have as much holiday time between your terms as we do. Like we obviously have 3 weeks off for Christmas after we finished core 1, whereas the January batch seemed to just go from straight into one to the other. The other thing I would say about internships is it is true that you'll have less time and that those classes are immovable, but I also have friends who just like negotiated their way around that. So not everyone will be open to negotiation, but that doesn't mean there aren't some people who you could negotiate with, where you could find a way that you can attend your class but still attend your internship if your internship is in Paris, obviously.
Paris.
And also, like, I don't know what kind of accommodations you'll be facing in this new world that we're in, because there might be more online programming, which makes it possible for you to be in 2 places at once, essentially, which obviously wasn't really a factor for us, although there were some online electives if you're in elective phase. But yeah, there are differences and there are challenges. There are trade-offs on both sides. But, you know, don't underestimate the power to negotiate or to work around the obstacles, because there are obviously 2 Js on this call who have done a great job in their MBA and have, like, lived to tell the tale, so to speak. So there's nothing to suggest that Septembers are inherently better. It's more about what you make of the program and how you work around the obstacles that are placed in your way.
One thing that you mentioned about accommodation is also important, I think, because if you want to live in Expansio, it's better to go in September, definitely.
Okay. So I think our viewers should be listening to this. For those who want to get into Expansio, you've got one more incentive to stay in September. Okay, great. I think we have time.
Say something for the investment banking. It's true. The application for investment banking starts somewhere, I think, in November. I mean, I'm talking about the Birch bracket, right? I'm talking about all those big companies. It started in November, I think, somewhere in November, or end of October till December, and the interview are taking place in January. So that means that if you are from Gen, you should start preparing before joining the MBA, and like apply, like advise someone is reach people from the company and say, hey, I'm about to start the MBA, I'm interested doing the internship, and they will keep you in the loop because they invite people to their event. So if you have that opportunity to attend the event, that would be great. But knowing that you start in January, you have to start preparing way ahead, starting the MBA, because otherwise you will miss that. You will miss the deadline. Because I see a lot of my classmates were still disappointed. But me, in my case, I apply in the second year. I mean, I apply for what is the second year, because I apply after the exchange, when I was doing the exchange. And the interesting thing is, I remember when I went to spoke to the career, and the guy looked at my profile. He said, "Oh, your second year MBA. Oh, they won't call you because they are more targeting the first year MBA." But guess what? I got interview with Goldman Sachs for that. So I'm saying you have to believe in yourself. I mean, like, this is that. I mean, that's my motto. I never listen to people saying, okay, this is the way, this is the normal path, this is what you have to do. No, just believe in yourself. If you feel like you can make it, I mean, give yourself the means to do that. Like, do the job yourself. That's why I keep saying, like, don't rely on the career. Go on the website, register there so that you receive the events and you can attend it. And beside that, make the preparation yourself, because you wouldn't have all the class, the finance class, or all those things. So you have to prepare for accounting and all those stuff yourself. But, like, who knows? And just bear in mind, for people applying, for instance, in London, I just find that you will be in competition with people even from the States who are also applying in London. So be aware of the competition from other business schools, because there is no role that is dedicated to HEC or to LBS or to wherever. So just be aware of that. I mean, do your part of the job. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Corinne, for that input as well. We are almost at the end of our time. It's already, I think, 16:30 GMT, if I'm not wrong. Yep. So do we, up to you, our panelists, if we have 10 more minutes of your time, we could maybe field a couple more questions, or we could share it to you personally. Georgie is given a thumbs up. Oscar and Corinne, if you have 10 more minutes, we could, perfect. Corinne, we can't see you, so.
Yeah, I guess with the COVID, it's hard to say I have stuff to do, right? Because we know you locked down. So yeah, I have 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
To
We
all
really
you three.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for sure for your 10 minutes for your time and the 10 more minutes. We will do another question that came up in the Q&A, and then we'll make a very short closure to the session and say thank you for your time and participation, of course. So the question that came up in the Q&A is, what are the pros and cons of doing an MBA fieldwork project and 4 electives instead of 8 electives? Is it more difficult? I think this question would be for you, Georgie. You did the project,
So
the MBA project.
It's a really good question. And so it's going to depend, I mean, it's going to, like everything, it's going to depend on a lot of factors, but certainly one key thing to think about when you're considering whether to do an MBA project or just to take the 8 electives is how you best like to learn and how willing and able you are to self-motivate yourself to work. Because if you're going to be better off just going to class and doing what you're told, essentially, although obviously it's not rote learning, but going to class, turning up 6 times or for the class, doing the assignments and sitting the exam or writing the final paper or whatever, then that's probably going to be a more enjoyable experience for you than taking on an MBA project, which, while you do have an academic supervisor, depending on who they are, they can be completely hands off and not push you at all, which is why mine took me 18 months when it should have taken 10. Because it's really up to you to do the work in that instance. Now, on the positive side, obviously, I mean, in elective term, it means you have a lot of time to yourself because you only have 4 classes to take, and if that happens to be an elective that's taught over 3 days, then that subject is out of the way within the space of 1 week, give or take, for writing a final paper or something. Which means, from a flexibility standpoint, if you've got an internship that's not in France, you can, potentially start earlier because your classes are out of the way earlier and you can work on your MBA project on the side, and your time flexibility is helpful. The main motivation on my side for doing my MBA project, and my MBA project was about the legacy of the Olympic Games, so it was directly related to my internship, was that I wanted to do something that was related to the industry that I was interested in, on a subject that was topical in the place that I wanted to work. And there was nothing that I could do in the MBA program that was going to give me that kind of specificity. And the MBA project permitted me to network without having to be like, hey, can we have a coffee so that I can learn about what you do? It was like, hey, this is my project and this is the question I'm trying to answer, and I'd really like to ask you some questions about this. And people didn't feel networking. I didn't feel like I was imposing, although obviously I was anyway, but it didn't feel like I was doing it just because I was like, I want a job. It was like, I'm doing this because I'm doing this study, which is relevant to our industry, which is relevant to what you're working on. I have something to exchange with you over. And that was really, really valuable. So, like I said, it took me longer than it was meant to. Unfortunately, the HEC jury is flexible enough that it didn't, I wasn't penalized. It wasn't a hard deadline where I handed in super late. And so I really did have to work hard at self-motivating, even though I knew what I was in for at the beginning. But those are I suppose, the big things to weigh up. And I have friends who took on the MBA project who would say that they regretted it. They shouldn't have done that. They should have just done the electives and gotten it out of the way. Or I have other friends who toyed with the idea of a project and decided to do electives and were really glad that they did. But a lot of us did do the project. I mean, when I say a lot, I think there was about 40 in the September 17 batch. And it's a useful tool. It's something you can talk about in interviews. It's something you can talk about in networking, as I said. If you are niche and you have a niche topic or niche area of interest, or you're looking for a way to stand out, then it can be a way to do those things. And my MBA project has 100% served me. That helped me get the job that I have. And potentially parts of it are going to be published in a book that the founders of our company are writing, potentially, I say. So I'm not guaranteeing that it's ever going to end up in print, but all that's to show that it was worth the effort and the having to self-motivate and the hours of trying to write this thing with Wimbledon playing in the background. But it's not going to be for everyone. So that's what I really encourage you, if you're considering that, and when you get to consider that, and you don't have to decide this now, is to really interrogate yourself on what is going to suit your circumstances and your level of motivation and your level of interest in the topic that you're exploring when you make that choice. And if anyone wants to talk further about that as well, as with everything, you can contact me.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Georgie.
One more question, time for one last question, Stefano.
Yep, it's the last question or the closure for our session, I think, to keep the time and to finish on time.
Cool, great, go ahead.
Yep, it's okay. Yeah. So the last question, just before ending the session, we would like to ask each of you, and we can keep it short to finish on time. What is your biggest highlight or fondest memory from the MBA? And you already told us a lot of insights during the session, but what would be one insight or one advice that you will give the incoming batch of HEC if you had the opportunity to choose just one advice?
I can go first if you like.
Yep, perfect.
So we've talked a ton about school and academics and careers, and honestly, like that is just like this much of the program. There's heaps of extracurricular stuff like MBAT, my MBAT water bottle just here. There's Sancia, there's like a whole lot of other stuff that happens. There's socializing in P-Bar, there's like trips to Paris, there's the 3 a.m. bus from Denfert Rochereau, there's so much more than what we've talked about today. And all that's to say is that it's a consuming and overwhelming experience that goes by so fast. So make sure you make the most of it and enjoy every moment, and don't take it for granted. And I encourage you to try more than less. You can't do everything, and you're going to have to make choices. That's like the trade-off thing is all we ever talk about. But at the same time, don't be afraid to get involved and try and have a taste of all the different things that you think might be interesting to you. But at the same time, don't waste your time doing things just because everyone else is doing them, because that won't serve you at all. Like I said, you have such a short time in the program that you want to make sure you make it count. And the highlight for me, I mean, aside from MBAT and Sancia and parties in P-Bar, was definitely the people. And it is your first network on a professional basis, but it's also your personal network. It's your friends, it's your, I want to say family. It's the people that still the people I exchange with most on a social basis are people from the MBA, give or take a few people. So, I mean, whinge as I might want to about this, that, or the next thing, I will never whinge about the people that they chose for my class. And I feel so fortunate that I ended up in that class. And I'm sure that's the same for every single batch. It's not that we were extra special, but it's just that you form the bonds with the people that are in your batch. And those are things that carry on for a long time. And I mean, I already alluded it to more before when I said I didn't want to leave Paris early to leave the people, and that's because they were 100% the best thing of the MBA for me.
Thank you very much, Georgie.
Yeah, what I can say is the most valuable thing is the people, and you have to make the most of your time with the people. As Karim mentioned in a previous question, try to get to know everybody, but not only in a superficial way. Try to make the most of that connection, to know about their lives, to know about their interests and those kind of things. I would say that's the most valuable thing I got from HEC is the friends I got for life now.
Thanks, Oscar.
Me, I would say, I know I should maybe not say that, but forget about being on a dean list, right? Or you didn't pay 60K or whatever fees it is to be on a dean list. If you wanted to be on a dean list, be on a dean list when you're undergraduate. I think forget about that. I mean, I figured that out pretty earlier. I'm not saying follow me, but like really, you will find that no one care about your grades. No one care about when it's come to the employment. And no one care about that. So instead of spending your time like doing your assignment to get an A and not going to company event, I would say really make sure you reach out as many professionals as you can, talk to them. And the good thing doing an MBA is that people are really eager to talk to you, and they talk to you freely because they consider you as a student. I used to say, being an MBA student enabled me to attend event at Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan. And at the same time, I mean, like being an MBA student, if I was already a government, I could not go to Credit Suisse to talk to them. right? Because it's already competition. So when you're a student, they see you as like, okay, they feel free to share things. So really make sure you leverage your MBA to reach out people and like not just focus on the grades. I mean, I learned it the hard way, to be honest. I remember I was doing my managerial economics assignment. I remember that it was on the A318. I cannot forget this plane, right? Because instead of preparing for my interview with Amazon, I was doing my managerial economics assignment. I mean, hopefully he gave us an A, but like I don't care about that A. I'm like, obviously I'm proud of that A because I cannot imagine if I had a B or a C on that one, I would have just hated. But like I was like, this is when I realized, come on, yeah, it's good you're gonna A, but no one cares, right? But at the same time, you lost that opportunity. I remember, and I didn't know that Amazon internship was like they pay 5,000 euros per month. I didn't know that as well. So like I just heard it because right now that I have to repay my MBA loan, I still feel it. This is the thing I'm feeling it. Like you asked me my takeaway from my MBA, repaying 500 euros every month. I'm feeling it, right? And no one cared about like me having had an A before or whatever. So like just think about it when you make your choice. You're not doing the MBA, you're doing the MBA to get a job at the end, not to be on the dean list. So that would be my advice to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Karim.
much, Karim.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. And so was Georgie and Oscar. So now we have come to the end of the session. And on behalf of the whole batch of September 2020 and January 2021 that attended the session, we had over 70 viewers on YouTube. We want to sincerely thank to our three panelists, Georgie, Karim, and Oscar, for their time and participation. You have gave us a lot of insights and advices that will be absolutely helpful for us when we begin our MBA journey at HEC Paris. Thanks a lot to each of you. And also thanks to our classmates for joining us. And we kindly ask our classmates from S20 and J21 to please stay for 10 more minutes because the COVID-19 team will present us the results of the survey regarding deferrals and other alternatives for our batch. We hope that you have enjoyed the session and found it useful. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, guys. For our
thank you
viewers, I'm sure you all can reach out to Georgie, Oscar, and Karim, probably on LinkedIn with their permission, if that's okay.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, with pleasure. And also, obviously, I'm still in Paris. So when you do end up in Paris, if ever you want to meet and chat within social distancing guidelines, then I'm more than happy to meet you and hope to do so in the near future.
Thank you so much, Georgie.
So if I can give you one last piece of advice for the ones that does not speak French at the moment, start learning French. Start doing it now, intensive classes. If you speak French by the time you finish the MBA, you will have a lot more of opportunities. HEC is a very, very big brand in France and in Europe, but especially in France.
Thank you, Oscar. Very useful that also. So thank you very much to all of you three, Georgie, Oscar, and Karim.
Right?
Thank you.
Sometimes I'm not responsive. I'm sorry. Consulting is demanding, so sometimes I don't respond.
It's okay.
Blame me.
We'll be patient. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.